It was a bright Sunday morning. Birds were singing, the sun was shining, and inside the beautiful white church, everything was perfect. Flowers were placed on every bench. Soft music played as guests whispered and smiled. Everyone was waiting for the bride to walk down the aisle. It was a happy day. At least it was supposed to be. Mr. Thompson stood at the altar, wearing a sharp black suit. He looked proud, nervous, and excited. His friends and family sat quietly, all eyes on him. His bride, Emily, was about to enter. She was beautiful, kind, and younger than him, but he believed she was the one. The music changed. Everyone stood up. The doors of the church opened. But it wasn't the bride. It was a young man, maybe 21, wearing jeans and a gray hoodie. He looked out of place. His face was serious. His hair was messy. His breathing was heavy, like he had run to get here. "Dad!" the young man shouted. Gasps filled the church. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. "Jake," he said, "what are you doing here?" Jake stepped forward, slowly. Every step echoed in the silent church. He looked around at the shocked faces, then focused on his father. "You can't marry her," Jake said, his voice shaking. The music stopped. The guests whispered. A few people even pulled out their phones. "Jake," Mr. Thompson said, "this is not the time." "No," Jake said firmly. "This is the time. You need to know the truth." People looked confused. Some thought Jake was just a jealous son. Others thought he was being dramatic. But Jake's eyes showed something else. Fear. "She's lying to you," he said. "That woman is not who she says she is." At that moment, the bride, Emily, finally appeared behind him. She had stopped at the door, holding her white dress in her hands. She looked calm, but her eyes were cold. "Jake," she said sweetly, "you don't want to ruin this day. Please sit down. You're just confused." Jake turned to her. "No, I'm not confused. I know who you are." She smiled nervously, trying to act calm, but her hand was shaking. Jake looked back at the guests. "I met her 2 months ago. I didn't know who she was. She used a different name then. I only found out later that she was dating my dad. I was shocked." Mr. Thompson frowned. "What are you talking about?" Jake stepped closer to the altar. "I followed her last week. I saw her go into a hotel room with another man. I waited. I watched. She stayed there all night." The room went silent. "That man," Jake continued, "has a criminal record, and she knows him. She's been lying to all of us." Emily's smile disappeared. "I have proof," Jake said. He reached into his hoodie and pulled out a photo. "This is her with him. Taken just 3 days ago. She told you she was visiting her cousin. She wasn't." The photo was clear. Emily was laughing in the arms of a man with tattoos all over his neck. Not a cousin. Not a friend. Definitely not innocent. Emily stepped back. Her face had changed. She wasn't sweet anymore. Her eyes looked sharp, cold, dangerous. "I didn't want to believe it," Jake said, his voice softer now. "But I checked. She changed her name. She moved to this city 6 months ago. Before that, she had a different name in another state. And guess what? She was engaged to another man there. He disappeared." Mr. Thompson looked pale. He shook his head. "No, this can't be true." "I didn't want to ruin your day," Jake said, "but you needed to know before it was too late." Suddenly, someone in the back whispered, "Call the police." Emily's eyes darted around. She clutched her purse tighter. Her breathing quickened. Jake noticed it. He stared at her. "What's in the bag?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Emily," Mr. Thompson said, stepping back, "open your bag." She took a step back, then another. Someone stood up. "Don't let her leave." But Emily turned and ran. Guests stood up in shock. Mr. Thompson ran after her. Jake followed. Outside, the sound of a car starting could be heard. Inside the church, everyone was silent again. Someone finally spoke. Did she really have a gun in that bag? Emily disappeared down the street, her white wedding dress dragging through dirt and gravel. Jake and Mr. Thompson ran after her, but she was fast. Too fast. At the end of the road, a black car screeched to a stop. She jumped in, and within seconds, the car sped away. Jake stood there, out of breath, watching the car vanish. She planned this, he said quietly. She knew I'd come. Mr. Thompson was still frozen. He couldn't believe what just happened. His wedding, destroyed. The woman he was about to marry, gone, running from the truth. His hands shook. His heart felt heavy. They walked back to the church. Guests stood outside, talking, confused, scared. Someone had already called the police. Jake gave them a short version of the story, but he knew that wasn't enough. He needed to explain everything to his father and the cops. They sat inside the empty church. It was quiet now. No music, no smiles, just pain and shock. Jake looked at his father. I didn't want it to be this way, he said. Mr. Thompson didn't answer. He just stared ahead. Jake took a deep breath. It started a few months ago. I saw her in a coffee shop. She was with someone. A man I didn't recognize. I didn't know who she was back then, but something about her seemed strange. He paused. Then you introduced her to me. Said her name was Emily. I didn't connect it at first. She looked different. Her hair, her voice, it was all a little off. But when I saw her smile, I remembered. Mr. Thompson finally turned to his son. His eyes were tired. You knew her from before? He asked. Jake nodded. I didn't know her name then, but I remembered her face. That's when I started watching her closely. He pulled out a folder from his backpack. I found her old profile on social media. Different name, different city. She was engaged to a man named Daniel Marks. He disappeared 5 months ago. No one heard from him again. Mr. Thompson's hands clenched. I checked police reports, Jake continued. Nothing official, just missing person. But there were rumors. Neighbors said Daniel was arguing with someone before he disappeared. A woman. No one could describe her well. He laid out photos on the bench between them. One showed Emily with Daniel, smiling. Another showed her at a party in a red dress. She had a different hairstyle, but it was clearly her. I found a private investigator online, Jake said, paid him to check her background. He found more. 2 fake names, both with short, strange histories. She moved often, always met older men, always disappeared later. Mr. Thompson's voice cracked, and I thought she loved me. Jake looked at his father with sad eyes. I think she just wanted something from you. Maybe your money, maybe something else, but it wasn't love. Just then, a police officer walked into the church. He spoke quietly to another guest, then walked over to Jake and Mr. Thompson. We got a report, the officer said. A woman matching her description was seen entering a black SUV registered under a fake name. We're tracking it now. Jake nodded. Check this, he said, handing over the folder. It has everything I found. The officer looked impressed. You've done good work here. Your father's lucky you were watching. Mr. Thompson looked away. He felt broken, betrayed, but deep down, he was thankful. Jake placed a hand on his shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your life. I just didn't want her to destroy it. His father didn't speak, but he slowly reached out and squeezed Jake's hand. For now, Emily was gone, but the truth was out. And soon, justice would follow. 2 days passed. The police were still looking for Emily. Jake stayed at his father's house. The wedding decorations were still up. The white flowers had started to dry. The congratulations banner now felt like a cruel joke. Mr. Thompson hadn't said much since the wedding. He spent most of his time in his room, quiet and still. Jake didn't blame him. He had almost married a woman who was living a lie. That evening, The doorbell rang. Jake opened the door. A tall man in a black jacket stood there. "I'm Detective Miller," the man said. "Mind if I come in?" Jake let him in, and they sat in the living room. Mr. Thompson joined them a few minutes later. "We found the SUV," the detective said. "It was abandoned near an old motel just outside the city. No sign of Emily, but we found something else." He placed a small bag on the table. Inside were fake IDs, passports, and several credit cards under different names. "She's been doing this for a long time," the detective continued. "We believe she's part of a larger scam operation. She targets older men, earns their trust, and then disappears with whatever she can get: money, assets, even personal information." Mr. Thompson looked down. "I gave her access to my bank account. I even added her to my will." Jake clenched his jaw. "She was never here for love." "There's more," the detective said. "We went back to her old apartment. It was cleaned out, but we found a hidden box in the closet. Inside were photos, letters, and a gun." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. "A gun?" "Yes, unregistered. And this." The detective pulled out a letter sealed in a plastic bag. "It's a letter from a man named Daniel Marks." Jake sat up straight. "Her old fiancé." The detective nodded. "The letter was addressed to the police. He wrote that if anything happened to him, Emily should be questioned. He said she had a temper and a dark past." There was silence in the room. "We believe Daniel is missing because of her," the detective said. "We can't prove it yet, but we're getting close." Jake looked at his father. "She could have done the same to you." Mr. Thompson swallowed hard. "I thought I knew her. I thought she loved me." "She fooled everyone," Jake said softly. The detective stood up. "We're issuing a warrant for her arrest. If she contacts either of you, call us immediately. Don't talk to her. Don't meet her. She's dangerous." After the detective left, Mr. Thompson sat quietly on the couch. Jake walked to the window and looked outside. The street was empty. Still. Too still. He turned back. "Dad, you okay?" Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. "I was ready to give her my life, and she was ready to destroy it." Jake sat beside him. "She almost did, but we stopped her." Suddenly, Jake's phone buzzed. A message. "Unknown number. You should have stayed out of this." Jake's heart skipped. He showed the message to his dad. "It's her," he said. Mr. Thompson stood up. "Call the detective. Now." Jake picked up the phone. But outside, the headlights of a black car appeared at the end of the street. It wasn't over. Not yet. Jake stared out the window at the black car parked down the street. It didn't move. Its engine was off. The windows were dark. But Jake had a bad feeling. He quickly showed the message to his dad again. "You should have stayed out of this. She knows where we live," Jake whispered. Mr. Thompson looked pale. "She's watching us." Jake called Detective Miller right away. "She sent a message," Jake said, "and there's a black car outside. I think it's her." "Stay inside," the detective warned. "Lock all doors and windows. Officers are on the way." Jake locked every door, every window. He checked the garage, the backyard, the basement. Then he closed all the curtains. They waited in silence. Every tick of the clock felt louder than usual. Outside, the black car still didn't move. Mr. Thompson sat on the couch, holding a baseball bat. Jake kept his phone in his hand, ready to call again if anything happened. 10 minutes later, flashing lights appeared. A police car pulled up behind the black vehicle. 2 officers got out, guns drawn. They slowly approached the car. Jake and his dad watched from behind the curtain. One of the officers opened the door. It was empty. No driver, no passenger, just a running camera on the seat, pointed at their house. "She's taunting us," Jake said, his voice tight. "She wants us scared." Detective Miller entered the house moments later. "She's playing games," he said. This isn't just about money anymore. She's angry. Mr. Thompson looked up. What does she want now? I think she wants revenge, the detective said. She knows you exposed her. And people like her, they don't let that go. Jake clenched his fists. Then let's stop her, before someone else gets hurt. The detective looked at them carefully. There might be a way, but it's dangerous. Jake leaned in. Tell us. We make her believe you're leaving town, Detective Miller said. You pack your bags. Cancel your cards. Tell friends you're scared and running away. Then we'll track her when she tries to follow you. It's a trap, Jake said. The detective nodded. Exactly. Mr. Thompson looked unsure. What if she tries something violent? We'll be watching every step, Miller said. You won't be alone. That night, Jake and his father packed 2 suitcases. They posted fake updates online. Mr. Thompson called a few friends, saying they were going to stay at a cabin in another state. Everything looked real. They even drove to a nearby hotel and checked in under fake names, while the police stayed hidden in a nearby room. The plan was set. But Emily was smarter than they thought. At 2 a.m., Jake woke up to a knock on the door. He froze. Police password. He asked through the door. No answer. Another knock. He stepped back. Dad, wake up. Mr. Thompson sat up fast, eyes wide. She found us. Jake's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Clever plan. But I was already inside. Jake's blood turned cold. He looked around. The closet. He grabbed a lamp and stepped toward it. His hand shook as he opened the door. Empty. Then, from the bathroom. Crash. Jake spun around. The sound came from the hotel bathroom. Something had fallen. Something, or someone, was inside. He rushed to his dad's side. Stay behind me, he whispered. Mr. Thompson picked up the lamp while Jake grabbed the phone. He dialed Detective Miller with shaking fingers. She's here, Jake whispered. Room 214. Bathroom. Stay calm, Miller said. We're already in the hallway. Don't move until we get in. Jake didn't wait. He moved slowly toward the bathroom door. The lights in the hotel room flickered once. His heart pounded in his ears. Every second felt like forever. He reached the door. Silence. Then, bang. The door flew open. Emily charged out, wild-eyed, holding a small knife. Jake jumped back, crashing into the wall. Mr. Thompson shouted, Emily, stop. But she didn't. She ran toward him. At that moment, boom, the hotel door burst open. Detective Miller and 2 officers stormed in. Drop the knife, they shouted. Emily froze, her hand trembling. Don't make it worse, Miller warned. For a moment, no one moved. Then her face changed. From anger to fear. She dropped the knife. The officers grabbed her and pulled her to the ground. Jake couldn't breathe. Mr. Thompson sat on the bed, shaking. Emily screamed, he ruined everything. I was going to start over. You had no right. Miller looked down at her. You made a choice. And now, it's over. They took her away in handcuffs. Silence filled the room. Jake sat on the floor, heart racing. His dad came over and sat beside him. She was going to hurt you, Mr. Thompson said, barely above a whisper. Jake nodded slowly. She could have hurt you too. The next morning, Miller returned. She confessed to the scam. And something else, he said. Jake and Mr. Thompson looked up. She admitted she was there the night Daniel Marks disappeared. Mr. Thompson's face tightened. Did she? Miller nodded. She pushed him during a fight. He hit his head. She panicked and buried the truth. That's when she started running. Jake sat back in his chair, eyes closed. So many lies. She won't be free again, Miller said. You stopped her, both of you. Later that day, Jake and his dad went back to the church. It was empty now. The wedding decorations had been taken down. Mr. Thompson stood at the front, where he almost said, "I do." "She almost stole everything from me," he said quietly. Jake smiled a little. "She didn't. You still have your life, your future, and me." Mr. Thompson looked at his son and placed a hand on his shoulder. "No matter what happens," he said, "I'll always trust you first." Jake nodded. "That's all I wanted." As they walked out of the church, the sky was clear. The wind was gentle. For the first time in weeks, they both felt peace. The danger was over. The lies were gone. And the truth had finally won. It had been 3 weeks since Emily's arrest. Life had slowly returned to normal. Mr. Thompson canceled all the accounts Emily had touched. He changed his passwords, sold the house, started fresh in a small, quiet town nearby. Jake visited often. They were closer than ever. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the hills, a letter arrived. There was no return address, just one word on the envelope: Jake. He opened it slowly. Inside was a folded note, handwritten in sharp, careful letters. "You think you won, Jake, but not everything is what it seems. Look deeper. I didn't act alone. Someone close to you helped me. Someone you trust. Don't sleep too well. E." Jake's hands shook. "What is it?" Mr. Thompson asked. Jake handed him the letter. He read it twice, then again. "What does she mean?" he asked. "Someone we trust." Jake sat down, his mind racing. He remembered the private investigator he had hired, David Hale. He had paid him in cash. The man never gave his full name. He only contacted Jake through a private email. And then he disappeared. He also remembered something strange. Emily always seemed to know when Jake was looking into her past, as if someone was warning her. Jake pulled out his laptop and checked the old emails. The sender, David Investigations at Outlook.com. He clicked on the first email. But this time, something was different. There was an attachment. He opened it. A video. Emily was sitting in a dark room. Across from her was the so-called investigator, David. They were laughing. Emily looked into the camera. "Hey, Jake, if you're watching this, well, I guess you were smarter than I thought, but not smart enough. David was mine the whole time." Jake stared at the screen, stunned. Mr. Thompson watched with wide eyes. "Everything he told me, it was a trap," Jake whispered. Emily continued on the video. "You gave me everything I needed. Your father's schedule, his habits, where he kept his documents, all through the investigator." Jake slammed the laptop shut. "I gave her the tools to ruin us," he said. "I trusted the wrong person." Mr. Thompson put a hand on his shoulder. "You tried to protect me," he said. "That matters more than anything." Jake nodded slowly. "But this isn't over." Mr. Thompson looked at him. "What do you mean?" Jake stood up. "If she had help, then that person's still out there. And they're not done." He walked to the window, looking out into the night. Somewhere, in the shadows, Emily's partner was waiting, watching, maybe planning something worse. Jake turned back. "I'm going to find him. And this time, he wouldn't make the same mistake." It had been 4 days since Jake watched the video, the one where Emily laughed and revealed her hidden partner. Jake couldn't forget that face. The fake investigator, David Hale, wasn't a stranger. The more Jake looked at him, the more familiar he seemed. But he just couldn't place him. He barely slept. His mind was full of questions. Who was he really? Why did he help Emily? And what was he planning now? Jake sat at his desk, his laptop open. He stared at the video, frame by frame. Then he paused it. There, on David's wrist, a tattoo. Small, faded, but Jake recognized it. A crescent moon with 2 lines below it. Jake's eyes widened. "I've seen that before," he whispered. He pulled out an old high school yearbook, page after page, until he found it. Travis Dale, a student from 3 grades above him, always quiet, a bit strange, but always watching. Travis had that same tattoo. He used to draw it on his notebooks. Jake remembered hearing a rumor years ago that Travis had been arrested for computer hacking, then disappeared. It had to be him. He grabbed his phone and called Detective Miller. His real name's Travis Dale, Jake said. He went to my school. I think he changed his identity to become David Hale. I'll dig into it, Miller said. But be careful. If he's a skilled hacker, he could be watching you right now. Jake froze. He turned to his laptop. The webcam light blinked, just for a second. Someone was watching. He closed the laptop fast and covered the camera with tape. Then, a message popped up on his phone. Unknown number. Dig too deep, and your father won't wake up tomorrow. Jake's heart dropped. He ran upstairs to his dad's room. Mr. Thompson was still asleep, breathing slowly. Jake locked the door and sat beside him, phone in hand. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. This was about Travis, a ghost from the past who was now controlling the present. Jake had 2 choices: run and live in fear, or fight and end this once and for all. He made his decision. I'm coming for you, he whispered into the dark. You messed with the wrong family. The night was heavy with silence. Jake stood in the dark, looking at the glowing screen of his phone. The threat was clear. Travis Dale was out there, waiting, watching, and manipulating everything. Jake knew this was it. There was no running. He had to confront the person who had been pulling all the strings, hiding in the shadows. He grabbed his jacket, looked once more at his sleeping father, and left the house. The cold night air hit his face, but it didn't matter. He had a mission. No more fear. Jake drove to the abandoned building at the edge of town, the one that seemed to hide more secrets than answers. It was the place where Travis had been hiding, pulling the strings, watching every move Jake made. His gut twisted as he pulled up to the darkened building. The windows were cracked, the doors rusted shut, but Jake knew he was in there. He stepped out of the car, heart racing. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he crept closer, moving silently like a shadow in the night. The building loomed ahead of him. Inside, there was a low hum, the sound of computers working, of lives being controlled. Jake stepped inside, the door creaking on its hinges. The darkness swallowed him. And then, from the corner, he saw him. Travis Dale. He was sitting in front of a massive computer screen, his face illuminated by the blue glow. He didn't look surprised. In fact, he looked almost bored. You shouldn't have come here, Jake, Travis said, his voice flat. You could have walked away. I gave you a chance. Jake's fists clenched. You ruined everything. You almost destroyed my family. Travis stood up slowly, turning to face him. He was taller than Jake remembered, but there was something cold about him now. The young boy from high school, the quiet one, was gone. In his place stood a man who had learned how to manipulate, how to hide in plain sight. It's not personal, Travis said, a twisted smile forming on his lips. It's just business. Business, Jake echoed, his voice tight with anger. You used my father. You used me. You don't even care about the damage you caused. Travis shrugged. You're not the first person I've tricked. You won't be the last. Jake moved closer, every step echoing in the empty room. I'm done running. No more games. This ends tonight. Travis raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Suddenly, the room around them flickered. The lights went out. Jake's heart raced. He could hear Travis moving, his footsteps soft but quick. The sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Don't you get it, Jake? Travis's voice came from the darkness. You were always just a pawn. Everything I did was to set up the perfect game. Jake felt a rush of fear, but he didn't let it stop him. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. He swept the beam across the room, searching for any sign of Travis. The shadowy figure moved in and out of the light, faster than Jake expected. Jake stepped forward, his hand tightening on the flashlight like a weapon. "You can't hide forever." Travis laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "I've never needed to hide, Jake. You were always the one who couldn't see what was right in front of you." In a flash, Jake saw him. A quick movement, a shadow darting across the room. He reacted instantly. Bam! Jake swung the flashlight, hitting Travis in the side. Travis staggered back, but he didn't fall. He looked at Jake, a wild look in his eyes. "You think this is over?" Travis hissed. Jake stepped forward, his breath sharp. "I know it's over." With one final move, Jake rushed at him, pushing Travis to the ground. The two struggled in the dark, the sound of fists hitting flesh and the clash of bodies echoing through the empty space. And then, click. The lights flickered back on. Travis lay on the ground, his face bruised, his eyes wide with shock. Jake stood over him, panting. The finality of the moment hit him hard. He'd faced the monster behind all of it. And now, the truth was finally out. "It's over, Travis. You're done." Travis didn't speak. He just glared at Jake, realizing that his game had ended. The walls he had built were coming down. The shadows he had hidden in were no longer safe. "Detective Miller's on his way," Jake said quietly. "And this time, you're not getting away." As Jake turned to leave, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his father. "You okay? I'm waiting for you. We're going to be all right." Jake smiled, a weight lifting from his chest. It was finally over.